Welcome to the WSS training for mobile apps today. My name is Chong. I'm a College East lecturer. Today we are going to share with you a few topics regarding mobile app design and development. The first part will be on the UI UX prototyping using a tool called Adobe XD. After that, we will talk about the Cocoapods, open source library framework, okay, where we can actually access other third-party libraries on the Swift programming language. We will also introduce to you how the Swift platform accesses a RESTful API, and specifically we'll give one example of a web services to access on the openweathermap.com. Okay, so we'll access the weather condition later on. The first part maybe just to share with you about UI UX prototyping, why or how to wireframe an app. So this is a link of the this article which I find it quite useful. Okay, you can actually take a look at this article here. I think the article is quite straightforward, and most of the information are quite clear over here. So I do not reproduce this article because I think this article best describes what the whole process is about. So before we actually start developing any mobile app, usually we will try to create some kind of wireframes or some kind of sketches of the app design. So the technical term they call it is a wireframe, which is essentially a blueprint or visual guide to the actual app on the mobile phone. So this example over here, as you can see, is a simple wireframe app of a particular app that you have a normal login page, sign up page, and the usual list view and articles and so on. So this is a very generic kind of a design which we have seen so many times in our mobile app. So the design or the wireframe is useful because it will tell the audience how the app is supposed to behave. Okay, and also what we call the user journey. So basically, user journey is a point where we actually try to imagine from the user's perspective how they want to use the app, why are they using the app, what are the purpose behind using the app, and so on. So all these things actually we have to take in mind. And of course, in every app development, we have different team members and stakeholders. Imagine what the app will look like. Okay, so this is how the whole design process works. And after that, when you have more time or when your design is more or less approved, right, you will try to zoom in to create a more higher fidelity design, something like this, so that this design will be a bit more detailed, like color, the font, and so on. So this is the design which usually we show to the customer. Okay, your client, where they want to know, hey, what have you been doing? What is your design? What is your progress so far? So usually we show this to the customer or to your boss or manager about the design and how the app will look like at the end. So throughout these things already, of course, some will say, why do we need to spend so much time create a wireframe and so on? Because the whole idea is we want to help our customers to visualize what the app will look like. Okay, the whole UI UX design process in a short way of looking at it is basically something like this. For generic process, the first part where we design the app is to try to imagine the scenario of the user, what we call a persona. So usually we'll try to develop a persona of the typical user for your app. So if let's say you are developing a e-commerce app, then your persona of the user might be, for example, tech savvy teenager like you. After that, you try to create what we call affinity mapping and develop this kind of different requirements and set priority. And finally, next we have the idea. That means we try to create some kind of a quick prototype, and the prototype can be a paper prototype, or it can be a hard copy or a real app itself. And finally, we validate the whole process. That means we will try to share with the customer or the client to let them get a feel whether is it what they want and so on. Okay, so example of a Shopee mobile app which we will try to create now. Basically, most of the e-commerce app more or less looks the same. So at the front page, we have what we call the home. We have all the key categories that the offer that are available and so on, flash deals. Depending on which part of the app that the user clicks. For example, he clicks on this advertisement here, and you go to the particular listing page for the article. After listing already, the user may actually click on a particular product to see the details over here, the price, also the user rating and so on. And finally, the most important thing is for the user to click on the add to cart button or to buy the item to the shopping cart. So this whole process is what we call a user experience flow. Okay, so basically for e-commerce, if you can see the trick or what the companies like Lazada or Shopee are trying to do is to try and make it very easy for the user to view the item, to select the item, and finally to purchase the item on the shopping cart. Okay, so the link is over here. So you can actually access the resources that we're going to use here. This is the link. So you can click on this link here, uses these files on the Adobe XD. So you can just download the files. Okay, you can start your Adobe XD if you have not started the Adobe XD. For those who are not able to access the Adobe XD, right, you can actually go over to the web page I showed you earlier. So the link to download Adobe XD is over here. Okay, you can download Adobe XD. Just click download. The first part is we can see that the welcome page, you have a bunch of different templates. The iPhone 12, okay, you can't see it. The iPhone 12, the smartphone template, the web desktop template. Now I think they had a new template for the IG story, Instagram, and so on. So for our case, we just stick with the iPhone 12 as a template. If you don't want iPhone 12, you can actually use other different templates over here. You can see iPhone 12 Pro Max, iPhone X, iPhone XR, different sizes lah. Okay, so these are some of the sizes. So we just keep things simple, just use the iPhone 12 Pro Max template. Okay, so this is how the Adobe XD tool looks like. I'm not sure how many of you have worked with Adobe XD before. So there are a few key frames or menus that we can see. On the top left corner, you can see the first so-called page is under the design page. Okay, so the design page is where, like your Adobe Photoshop, you can actually create different items on the canvas and so on. The prototype page will be where we will try to create the different transitions or the different so-called pages. Okay, how you move from pages to another. Sharing is basically the part where you can share your work either with your teammates, with your customers, or you can even share it on your smartphone and so on. There is an app which you can download on your iPhone or the Android where you can install this thing that you design later on. Okay, on the left side, you can see a bunch of tools, common tools like your shape like rectangle, ellipse, triangle, lines, and so on. So these are the basic tools that we use to draw the shapes later on. On the bottom left corner, you have a bunch of options where the first one is called the libraries. Okay, libraries is basically the items which you can add to your pages, like the buttons or the checkboxes or the switch and so on. On the second one is the layers. So layers is similar to the layering in your Photoshop or your Illustrator. So later on, you can see you can actually put different layers on top of each other. And the last one will be what we call plugins. Okay, plugins basically is something like extensions. If you are familiar with Google Chrome extensions or Firefox plugins, is basically the similar. Okay, so there are some plugins which we can actually add additional functionality to this Adobe XD. So if you click on this discover plugin button, you can see a bunch of other plugins. Some of them are free, some of them you have to pay money. Like for example, let's say you want to have a different kind of sketch, or let's say for example we look at the collaboration plugins. We can actually use different tools like Trello, okay, to share our assets. Trello is a collaboration tool. Jira Cloud also for sharing collaboration between your team and so on. So these are the different tools that you can actually add to this Adobe XD. Some of them are free, some of them you have to pay money. Okay, so you can actually go and look at it for all the plugins that you like or whatever. Okay, so let's try to look at this section over here. So if you look at the prototype for the Shopee mobile app. So up to this point, we almost have the front page ready. In the actual Shopee app, we can have like in iOS we call it a scroll view. In Android we call it a list view. So you can have a list of items or collection that they actually scroll vertically and so on. Pictures. Let's say I add a laptop. Okay, so this is basically like the prototype we have on the Adobe XD lah. Okay, so if you actually, if you can actually preview the app on the so-called the simulator. So there's a play button on the top right corner. Okay, so you can actually click the play button to kind of like preview the app. So this is how it looks on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Okay, so basically this is how it looks like the iPhone. But right now what we have is a kind of static page because the buttons or the different pictures do not interact, and also the articles we can't scroll. So it's kind of a bit not so useful. So let's try to do a little bit more. So let's say if I want to maybe scroll the page so that we can see the rest of the sewing machine and the HP laptop, right? We can actually, what we do is we select the page over here. Let me just select the page. Okay, so once selected, you can see the small little circles at the corners of the canvas. Can you see? Okay, you can see the small little circles, right? Okay, the small little circles. So what we can do is we drag the circle downwards, then we can expose a bit more of the page. So as you can see, as I drag the page downwards, I can actually expose more of this sewing machine and the HP laptop. Okay, so let's say I drag until here and I let go. Okay, so now I can see the whole HP laptop and the sewing machine already. And notice that there's a dotted blue line over here. Okay, we'll see what this means. So let's just go and preview the app again. Okay, so now I have the app running on the simulator. If you actually drag, you can see now, hey, my app is able to scroll up and down. Okay, so now that's a bit more interesting now because I can finally see the HP laptop and the sewing machine and so on. With regards to the blue line over here, so the blue dotted line over here represents the so-called the lower border, lower boundary of the iPhone. Because if you remember just now, iPhone 12 Pro Max, right? The size is a particular dimension, a width and a particular height. So this dotted blue line at the bottom over here, this dotted blue line represents the bottom of the iPhone 12 Pro Max. That means by right, anything below the dotted blue line, right, is below the iPhone, which is something like this. So you can only see when you actually drag it up and so on. Okay, so that is the meaning of this blue line over here. Of course, you can actually drag it up and down if you want, but that will defeat the whole purpose because you actually so-called designing this based on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. If you do it for other phones, let's say iPhone X or maybe iPhone or even Android, okay, obviously the dimensions are going to be different. So that's why the pages will also change slightly. So anyway, just take note the blue dash line. So this is how we can actually scroll the thing on the simulator. Okay, of course, we can make things a little bit more interesting. Adobe XD allow us to quickly iterate the design. So instead of trying to drag one picture by one picture very slow, right? So we can actually make things a bit faster. For example, I can actually select the HP laptop, press and hold the shift button and select the sewing machine. So now I have both the HP laptop and the sewing machine selected. And I go to the bottom here. When both are selected, you can see that you will see the same circle ellipses at the corners of the selection. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this item over here. Can you see? Called repeat grid. Okay, so you can click on this repeat grid. Then after that, you will see that the selection, the HP and the HP laptop and the sewing machine will change into a green color box. So just now the circle have been replaced by this green color icon here, a green color corner. Can you see? So now what we do is we're going to drag this downwards. Okay, so we can drag this down. And this is something interesting you will see. We are going to create new items just by dragging it down. Okay, so I can actually create new lists of items by just dragging it downwards without actually adding any more pictures. Okay, I'm just reproducing this one. Okay, so obviously I added this one. I have to make this artboard longer because I can't see the rest of the item which are hidden here. So I can drag the pages and you can see now my different pictures are added like this. Okay, so I just preview here. You can see now my pictures are automatically added. So so this tool called the repeat grid, right? The repeat grid over here allows us to actually quickly repeat the whatever items or the products that we want to create, just like this. So you just select this tool and drag and it will automatically create the new items over here. Okay, so a very quick way to create the prototype without actually adding more pictures. Okay, of course, if you don't like this picture, fair enough, you can actually create your own picture. You don't want this one, you can actually delete this picture if you don't like it. But this is just one way of doing it. Okay, of course, besides dragging it horizontally, you can also drag it. Besides dragging it vertically, you can also drag it horizontally also. Okay, so notice that they allow you to iterate to the left side and the right side also if you want. So that means for your design, you don't really have to always scroll vertically. You can also scroll horizontally also. Okay, so that is one way that you can actually iterate this page over here. Going back to the pictures that I downloaded just now, let's search for this item picture called the tab bar. Can you see? So let's drag the tab bar to the artboard here. Okay, I'm going to drag the tab bar at the just before the dotted blue line. Can you see? Just before the dotted blue line. Because remember just now, the dotted blue line represents the bottom of the app. Okay, so I'll put the tab bar at the bottom of the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Okay, almost there. Let me resize it a bit more. Okay, great. So now I have the tab bar added. Okay, I will tell you why I put it here lah. It's like in the middle of nowhere. Right? I mean, why am I putting it in the middle of the whole page? That kind of thing. So let's try and preview this app for now. So if you preview the app, you can see now, hey, the tab bar is nicely placed at the bottom of the artboard or the canvas. So everything looks nice except that when you try to scroll up and down, you notice that, oh, the tab bar moves with the rest of the pages. So it's kind of not so great because by right, my tab bar shouldn't be moving. My tab bar should be static at the bottom of the page, right? So why is it moving up and down? So that's not very nice. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some you click on the artboard icon on the left. Okay, can you see there's an icon here called the artboard? So after you click on A or the artboard icon here, you can see on the right panel, there's a list of the screens or the phones that you can use. So we are currently using iPhone 12 Pro Max. So let's stick with that. And so this will be a new artboard. So for my new second page, okay, so with the two pages done, we should be able to do a quick transition. How do we transition from one page to another? Okay, so far right now, the page that we created is okay. You can scroll up and down, but let's say you want to have interactivity. So transition from a user click from one page to another. So how to do that in Adobe? It's quite straightforward. So first thing you need to do is you go to the top left corner under prototype, select the prototype page that I'm currently in is changed to this format where you will see a small arrow on the right and the whole page is kind of selected like this. Let's say I want to allow the user to so-called click on this particular advertisement, the Giordano advertisement, and I want the user to go from this Giordano advertisement to this page over here, this second page. So what I'll do is I'll click on this blue arrow on the right of the Giordano advertisement. Then I will drag this arrow, you will see a blue line coming up. Okay, so you drag this blue line to the second page. Okay, it's something like your Xcode, you drag, control drag and create the segue and something like that. So you can let go, and now this page will be linked to this. Okay, so you can just treat it like a button or a picture. So when you click, you will come to this part. Okay, so you can actually check the transition using the simulation. So over here, simulation, what you do is you click on this advertisement here, Giordano advertisement, then you see you go to next page. Okay, so quite straightforward. So to make it a little bit more iPhone-like, you can actually change the transition. So right now, the trigger or this movement transition is actually by default a tap action. Of course, you can change it to different kind of trigger. For example, you can drag, can use buttons like keys, buttons, or even use voice trigger. Okay, so also for the transition by default, I think is ease out. If you don't want to use this kind of transition, you can dissolve. Sorry, dissolve transition. You can use different transitions, like for example, slide left. Okay, so let's say I choose slide left transition, and if I click, you will see I click this thing, then I'll go to here. So it become a bit more intuitive. Okay, so click slide left. So this will be a bit more like the real iPhone. Okay, so once we can slide right, obviously we want to slide back, right? So let's say how you do slide back very simply. You can just select, for example, let's say the back button here. And let's say you want to slide back to the previous page. Same thing like before, just click on the right arrow, the blue arrow here, drag it back to the previous page that you want to go to. Okay, so this will be something like the simulate the back button. So this is how you can use Adobe XD to do a prototype of your app on the Adobe XD. So with that, I think we kind of like stop the first part of the session. So this will be the Shopee mobile app. Of course, if you really want to try, you can try the rest of the pages. I think I have the pictures up to the product page. So you can actually try yourself if you want to do the rest. Okay, so I have everything up to the shopping cart and the product page. Okay, so you can try yourself on your own.